A P76? No.
P70 what?
P76.
Wouldn't have a clue, mate. We have no idea at all.
No.
Is it like a motorbike?
No? I have no idea.
A P76? No idea.
P76 is a car which was designed by Leyland and produced by Leyland and marketed by Leyland many years ago. P76 was the number of the project at that particular time, and they decided to name the car after the project. Project 76.
It was a very advanced car for its time, produced in Australia, it was designed in Australia, and it was manufactured only in Australia.
The P76 was a large car built at Victoria Park on the site of the old Victoria Park racecourse between 1973 and 1974. It was wholly designed and manufactured on that site.
My involvement with the P76, I guess, started when I was actually a kid, and I can remember the TV commercials.
What do you think's good for personal loan right now? Come on, bank. What do you have in mind? A new car.
I remember my dad talking about the car, and then I remember the controversy, and there seemed to be a lot of problems associated with the car, according to what I'd seen on the news and the TV.
The car was a victim of circumstances that occurred at the time. The car was very large for the 70s when there was an energy crisis, and they were starting to downsize motor cars. And the Japanese came onto the market and they produced smaller motor cars, and BMC, Leyland, produced the P76, which was a big motor car.
And certainly it was the only car in the world which could hold a 44-gallon drum in the boot.
And at the same time they failed to mention VW, for instance, who over the same period of time made every bit as serious an attempt as we did to manufacture in Australia with foundries and machine shops and assembly factories. They failed miserably and pulled out. And they failed to mention Mitsubishi, which failed, and Chrysler, which failed. So what I like about it is they're still talking about P76.
Well, the people who call it a lemon are probably journalists. It became popular to denigrate the car.
That sat at the back of my head, but my dad always seemed to maintain that the car was a good car and would have been a good car if it had been allowed to continue on. His theory was the unions destroyed it. Knowing what I know now, there was a lot more to it. The Leyland factory workshop manual was actually very good and very easy to follow. It was like a jigsaw puzzle. You could pull the entire car apart and put it back together if you had that book. Having an alloy V8 motor meant it was very light. You could disassemble the engine in the engine bay. There was that much room, so you could pull the manifold off and the heads off, and you could basically disassemble the engine, then pull the block out, and you didn't actually need an engine crane to do it.
When you get people who are perhaps not necessarily car people, but who rode in the car for the first time, and who turn around and say to you that this is the best car they have ever ridden in.
It's the only car, and I've ever driven in all the years, that actually the faster you go, the better it feels. If you do find someone that knows the car, they usually have completely the wrong idea about it, and I suppose it's usually based around the fact that the P76 was a really bad car, which it wasn't, and it sent Leyland broke, which it didn't. Have some confidential documentation between Leyland and the Labor government of the time, including a deal struck by David Abel, who was the so-called 31-year-old accounting whiz kid that was brought out here and put in charge of Leyland, and the acting Prime Minister, Dr. Jim Cairns. Your company, talking to Leyland, would follow the course and withdraw from manufacture of passenger vehicles in Australia and phase that down over as many months as practicable. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that. But in short, if you add up all the monies paid to Leyland to basically shut down and go away, it was around $25 million of taxpayers' money. Although you can't say that the unions didn't know about it, because there is actually a section here signed by Bob Hawke, who at that stage was head of the ACTU, the unions. Bob Hawke, who did actually become Prime Minister of Australia himself later on. But so he was well aware of what was going on too. I still get a buzz out of driving it. I mean, look, let's face it, if it wasn't a good car to drive, I wouldn't drive one as much as I do.